Coming out of the pandemic, more and more students have become chronically absent. Studies have found the absences don't correlate with COVID rates, but rather other reasons, including finances, anxiety, bullying, safety, staffing shortages.
Chronic absenteeism has at least doubled nationwide. In some places, it's increased even higher because there's a lot of local variation. If you're looking at the signs, you start to see it happening. And chronic absence is a early warning sign that kids might not re-enroll the following year.
Andrew Spar is the president of the Florida Education Association and joins us now live. Andrew, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us today. Explain to us how big of an issue this has become across the country.
Well, what we see here in Florida is that same thing of what you just reported on, that kids are not coming to school because they feel they're being bullied. They may not feel safe. We have a massive teacher and staff shortage in Florida and across this nation. So when they come to school, there's often substitutes. So they decide they'll go home instead. So there's a lot of reasons I think that contributed to it. But I think the biggest reason that we haven't really dealt with in an effective way so far has been the mental health around our students since COVID. It was a traumatic event for not just kids, but for adults as well. And I don't know that we've really invested in making sure that our students are getting the support and services they need to be successful at school and in life.
And I want to talk more about that in just a moment, but I also want to dig deeper into what the consequences are. What are the long-term consequences that chronic absenteeism might cause, not really just for the students, but on society as a whole?
Well, certainly when students are not in school, they're not learning. And we also know that sometimes when students are in school, they tend to, there's an increase in juvenile crimes that occur and stuff like that. So I think having kids in school is vitally important. And then making sure they're getting that education. At the end of the day, our democracy, our communities are built on a strong public education system. And so we want to make sure that kids are there getting the education they deserve and need. And when they're not showing up, what are we doing to address that? For example, here in Florida, it's very common when kids get a certain number of absences, somewhere around 10 in the course of a year, that they'll get a visit from a school social worker. Well, we don't have enough school social workers right now in Florida. So then they get backlogged and it's hard to track students who aren't attending.
So which communities or demographics seem to be the most affected in these instances, and why?
Well, it tends to be in our poorer schools the most, although we are seeing it across the board right now. And again, I think poverty drives some of the issues that come up, whether or not a kid has clothes that they feel comfortable in, or clean clothes, whether or not they have the resources to buy breakfast or lunch or get a breakfast or lunch at school. And then, of course, if that leads to bullying, then they're less hesitant to or more hesitant rather to come to school because of that.
Yeah, and I wanted to go ahead and talk more about the mental health aspect as we both discussed at the beginning of this interview, because some kids are saying, like you just mentioned, they're scared to go to school. Now, in the report that we were just watching, we were talking a little bit about gun safety measures, the implementation of metal detectors, the implementation of clear backpacks in the school. Short of this, what else are schools doing to make sure that kids feel safer, and what are they doing to address the issues with mental health?
Well, I think that's part of the struggle because we're not consulting with the experts. We're not consulting with teachers and staff and administrators on what we should be doing to support students and making sure they feel safe. We're not consulting with parents either. And so, I do worry about everything that's happening in our schools right now. My youngest daughter just started high school here in the state of Florida today. And so obviously when I dropped her off this morning, she's very excited about being at school, starting a new experience at high school. But of course, as any parent, I worry about making sure that she is safe at school. I do believe our schools are overwhelmingly safe, but when you have teacher and staff shortages, it certainly impacts the safety at school, and then of course making sure that, we talked about a little bit, dealing with the mental health of our kids, making sure that kids feel loved and supported. And in Florida in particular, there's so many laws being passed right now that actually counter that. I worry that with all of these constant drills, yes, we want kids to be prepared, but at what point are these drills actually having impact on their psyche, on their psychological reaction, because there's always an emergency drill? What if there is an active shooter? We have active shooter drills, we have bomb threat drills. And so there's a host of drills we're now doing in schools that I also think work in two ways. One, they help kids be prepared, but the other way is if we're not dealing with it, they're putting kids in a mindset that they should be concerned.
No, I have a 10-year-old, and he is scared of the shooting drills, the active shooter drills, which is what I think that you're probably alluding to. But the question remains, what is the solution to all of this? How much is the teacher shortage impacting all of this? And why aren't parents more involved in this conversation?
But we've got to get parents involved in the conversation. I think the teacher and staff shortage is a huge factor in this. And I think the solution is investing in our schools, right? We have to have more school counselors, more school psychologists, more school social workers, so that we're identifying kids or families that may be in crisis and getting them the support and resources they need to be successful. I also think we need to make sure that school is a place where all kids feel welcomed and loved and supported, so that if a child is dealing with some kind of bullying or some kind of psychological crisis, that they're able to go to someone, to speak to that trusted individual and get the support they need. And then, of course, parents and teachers have a sacred bond. We need to protect that sacred bond. There needs to be constant communication between parents and the school, between teachers and parents, making sure that we really are engaging in dialogue around how students are doing and if we're seeing any warning signs whatsoever.
And Andrew, these are all great ideas, and I'm going to have to let you go. But I think the biggest question here is where the money comes from. You know, because obviously you're saying that investments in education need to take place, but where does the money come from? I'm out of time. Andrew Spar is the president of the Florida Education Association. Andrew, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live.